Hello and welcome to another episode of Dad Life, A Dog's Breakfast. I am your host, and as always, I am no expert. I'm not even a father yet, not even a dad yet. Fatherhood is currently loading up for me as we speak. However, I am still just chronicling the journey of becoming a dad and the different experiences I have and the different things I learn along the way. Hopefully someone apart from myself will get something out of this. Now, that said, if you listen to the last few episodes, you'll know how I usually do things. But for today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different. I actually did some research prior to this one. It says it's led to significant headaches and the requirement for constant naps. Anyway, so what I want to discuss with you today is the acceptance of fatherhood, of being a dad. The reason for this is simple, actually. Well, I have some pretty awesome people around me in my private life, in my work life, in my friendship groups. Some of them are dads or about to be dads, and some of them are awesome, great examples. Others, not so much. They haven't accepted the role of fatherhood or pending fatherhood, or some, unfortunately, appear not to really like it. And when you talk to them, they're a bit of a downer. So this piqued my curiosity about the journey of acceptance and accepting being a dad and some of the changes that it brings, that comes along the way. As always, even though it's in the name and every week I try and not make it, so it's going to be a dog's breakfast, but I thought I'd try something different, so let's jump right in. So I even have notes for this. So I'm going to read some of the notes, go through them, and then discuss them. The psychology of accepting fatherhood is a complex process involving multiple factors, including personal identity, emotional responses, and social influences. And we're going to go through some of them now and discuss them. The first one we're looking at is the transition to fatherhood as a dynamic process. Becoming a father is not a single event, despite the fact there is quite a single, one event that definitively makes you dad. Anyway. But it is a long-term dynamic process where paternal identity is shaped and consolidated through various experiences. This process involves developmental identity, personality, partnership, and family aspects. It's a significant developmental task of adulthood that involves adaptation to life's changes. So pretty much this is the reason why I wanted to discuss this topic, is because some people in my life I've seen have well and truly accepted the changes and have adapted really well, and others have not adapted. I'd probably need to do a deep dive into their personal psychology to understand why they haven't, but in lieu of that, and me having not done a psychology degree, we're doing it like this instead. Paternal identity is constructed from various elements, including memories, experiences, fantasies, expectations, and internalized paternal patterns. Men often draw upon their experiences with their own fathers, using them as a positive or negative role model. The process involves reflection and exploration of one's own past to find a suitable model for fatherhood. A man's concept of himself as a father is not formed in a single moment, but is an ongoing development. Pretty much as I said for the last point, even though there is a single event that defines it. But looking at that, it's quite clear that if you don't have the strongest relationship with your dad, then that can have either an extremely positive or an extremely negative impact on your experience or acceptance of fatherhood. For me personally, I don't have the greatest relationship with my dad. And I think that hopefully that's going to push me in the other way and becoming a really involved dad, not a helicopter parent, just a step back from that. But my journey included other father figures, coaches, playing sport, especially when I did athletics, other people that I actually trained with for athletics who were a little bit older, provided a really good example of growing up and being a man and accepting responsibility and being a dad. But pretty much being a father and the identity as a father is an accumulation of life's experiences. It doesn't just happen overnight because we have 9 months to accept it anyway. But what shapes us as dads starts from a very, very early age, and the experiences we have with our own dad and then other potential father figures as well. Unlike mothers, fathers lack a direct physical connection with the child during pregnancy. Fathers perceive the reality of the child indirectly, such as through the partner's abdominal wall or ultrasound images. These body-mediated moments are significant in the transition to fatherhood. A child is initially an abstract idea for men, becoming more tangible in the second trimester when signs of pregnancy become visible. Moments when men encounter evidence of the child's existence are vital for accepting paternity and accepting being a father. I've spoken about this before, and it's usually in my tips and tricks, but it's just one of those things, just being there at the appointments, at the scans, because it just shows you're a caring partner, but also they're the things that help us accept what's about to happen. Because as it says there, we don't have that physical connection like our partners do, like the mothers do. They have it from the get-go, and it builds a more deeper and stronger emotional connection early on, while we have to to see the baby, be able to interact with the baby to start to get that. The discovery of a partner's pregnancy often brings a mix of emotions, including joy, anxiety, and uncertainty about responsibility. Men may experience a sense of loss of freedom and a need to adapt to the child's needs. Emotional changes during the transition can be positive, but some men may experience anxiety and depression. The birth of the child often brings intense feelings of love, happiness, credibility, and the realization of the baby's vulnerability. There 100% is and it would be both for the mum and us, that loss of freedom. I guess for lack of a better term, that's not the right way to explain it, but there would be that sense of that feeling, because you are now bound to this child and you need to care for the child, because if you don't, kid will die. The child will die. Like, it's that simple. So our babies are going to be super vulnerable, and due to that, we do have that sense of loss of freedom. But it's a good thing. Every person, well, not every person, but most of the people I talk about, they reckon it's the best thing they've ever done, the best journey they've ever been on. Gives them the most worthwhile, fulfilling experiences. So that loss of freedom pales in comparison to all the awesome stuff that comes from it. And another thing, and I might actually do this on another episode, is postnatal depression in men. From what I've spoken to people and read a few things real quick, and it seems like it's legit a real thing. And it's not just dudes not accepting that they want to be a dad, but just like women can, men can also experience that postnatal depression. There's also a sense of helplessness early on, which we will have, because the baby, we do not have the nipples that the baby is looking for. It's as simple as that. Unless you're bottle feeding, we are not the providers of life. I think the baby thinks it's still in the womb for like 2-3 months after being born. So the connection with their mum is incredibly deep. We will be standing around, standing like that stupid way that we stand, just being a nuisance. That's something that we just have to accept. That's reality of being a dad, especially in those first few months. The birth of a child is a key moment when a man's paternal identity is confirmed and legitimised. Seeing, hearing, and touching the child solidifies their identity as a father. Positive reactions from family and friends further strengthen the father's role. Responsibility is a strong theme involving acceptance of parenthood, preparation for it, and commitment to the child and family. The weight of responsibility can cause uncertainty about one's abilities. Accepting the child as one's own and making a conscious commitment to the child are important aspects of this process. Ultimately, life's going to change. As I said in the previous point, with that sort of loss of freedom, life's going to change, and it's going to be an epic change. And as I've been told by many people, no matter how much we prepare, we're still not going to be ready. Whether that's, as mums and dads, but essentially, I can speak specifically about dads for that one. It's going to be such a shock to the system, but those positive experiences and reactions from your family, from your friends, are going to just really reinforce how you should be feeling about parenthood. It's going to be daunting, but it's also going to be awesome. and the awesomeness will outweigh any of the daunting factors that we may experience. And then this line here, the weight of responsibility can cause uncertainty about one's abilities. I know personally, how do I word this? I struggle with I think for lack of a better term, just the epic amount of responsibility can seem almost overwhelming sometimes, personally. And from what I understand, that's pretty general for a lot of the guys I've been talking to. When they were about to become dads for the first time, it just threw them and it hit them like a ton of bricks. Probably later in the pregnancy, they're like, "Oh shit, I've got a lot on my plate here. I've got a lot to, I really need to step up and knock this one out of the park." So that one's a huge one. And I think it's usually in my tips and tricks is if, you feel like you need to talk to someone on that one point alone, that should be your cue. If you think you're struggling with that and that's becoming really overwhelming, that should be your cue to go talk to someone. Talk to your partner about it. Talk to a professional about it. Talk to your mum, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your parent, like anyone that's a parent who's in your life. Talk to them about that and try and get some guidance. But certainly, if you're struggling, reach out and talk to a professional, and they will give you really good coping mechanisms for things like that. This next point I actually find quite interesting, the concept. It's the concept of non-motherhood. Now, men may define their fatherhood in terms of non-motherhood, structuring their paternal identity around what they are not rather than what they are. They may encounter self-imposed limitations, biological or otherwise, in the prenatal and postnatal periods. This really goes back to that sense of helplessness. And like I said before, the baby's going to look at you and just think, those are not the nipples I am after. And you're just going to have to reply with, these are not the nipples you were looking for, and crack on. But there's so much you can do as a dad, especially in those first few weeks. And my partner put it to me really well, that she's going to be keeping the baby alive and I'm going to be keeping her alive. So she's going to do all this stuff for the baby, feeding it, and I get early on probably trying to help it sleep because it's going to still feel like it's connected to her. But my job is to keep my partner fed, watered, get her to sleep whenever she possibly can. And when those opportunities arise where I can take over the parenting role and, whether it's bottle feeding or just trying to get the baby to sleep, then that's when I jump in and my opportunity, that'll be my time to shine. And hopefully all things go well. But that's pretty much that's the simplest way that it's been put to me, is that mum keeps the baby alive, we keep mum alive. Hopefully that makes sense. Caring for a child brings both joys and worries. Fathers experience a range of emotions, including love, joy, pride, but also helplessness, mentioned that before, anger and worry. Success in overcoming challenging moments in childcare is essential for self-esteem and confirming paternal identity. Support from others, whether material, emotional, or educational, is critical for men when coping with fatherhood. I've said this a couple of times, and I've said it in every other previous episode. Reaching out and talking to people, getting advice from people, whether, you get one piece of advice from this or you go talk to your dad or a family member or a friend who knows the experiences that you're going through, you definitely need to step out of your comfort zone and be vulnerable and ask for help. And it might be something like, can you duck to the shops and get me a pair of 5-0 jumpsuits for the baby because it's just done a epically nuclear poo that's gone through everything that we have. And someone will go and do that for you. Or, hey mate, can you just listen to me for 5 minutes and just act as a sounding board and tell me that I'm doing okay? Or, mum or dad, I don't know what to do here. Can you give me some advice? If you've got 15 minutes, can you duck around and show me how to do this so I don't need to lean on you every time? Stuff like that. And I think that what we're all going to find out is that people are willing to jump through hoops for us to help us out. because the saying is it takes a village. So create your own little village so that you can succeed as a dad, because it is going to be a very daunting and worrying experience. But also, as I said with some of those points, there's going to be an incredible amount of love and joy and pride as we go through, but lots of worry, because that's just the way it is. Then we have men often experience personality changes and a shift in self-perception. They may perceive themselves as more mature and responsible after becoming fathers. Well, let's hope so. That's a good thing. That's simply, let's hope that we all feel more mature and responsible after becoming fathers, and then actually act that way and carry ourselves in a responsible and mature fashion. In summary, accepting fatherhood is a journey shaped by a man's personal history, emotional responses to pregnancy and childbirth, the tangible experiences of the child's existence, and the responsibility he assumes. It's a process of redefining self, relationships, and priorities. Ultimately, we as men should actively construct our fatherhood identity. And we do that by drawing from various experiences and constantly navigating the new role. And the best way to do that is with the help of others. And I hope that this has been a slightly different episode today. I think it's going to be shorter than the last one. I said the last one was going to be short, ended up being the longest of the lot. So clearly my perception of time is warped. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know I certainly have. And it's given me ideas for other episodes, the postnatal depression for men and those sorts of things. Hopefully it's helped. You're going to do awesome. Cheers.